Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the NBA Daily. We're going to call this a morning shoot around trade deadline primer. I'm Dave DuFour. I'm here with Sam Amick and Es Baraheni. How you guys doing this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. Doing well out here on the West Coast. We got the coffee that everybody saw in the picture there. We don't have the pancakes, but we're getting rolling here.
It's too early out here for breakfast. Let's be honest. I got to wake up a little bit before I eat. I was kind of up late last night. I don't know about you guys. We got this James Harden news happened during the fourth quarter of the Clippers game. Perfect time for James Harden to, I guess, how do we want to put this? Did he put it out into the world through the media? Like, who leaked this stuff, Sam? Who let us know that Harden wants out?
Yeah, so I was watching that Clipper game, and to pull the curtain back a little bit, I was in touch with one of our guys who covers the Lakers and the rest of the league, Dan Wojcicki, and Dan had been hearing some chatter about a Darius Garland in Cleveland and Harden swap. So like we tend to do is like, all right, let's make a few calls, checked in with a few people, but honestly, like I think it was like 7 or 10 minutes later, a story pops from Chris Mannix at Sports Illustrated that this deal was being discussed. Our old buddy from The Athletic, Kelly Iko at Yahoo, had something as well. Shams reported after that Harden and the Clippers were trying to find a new home. It's interesting. I know we're going to unpack it, but this year that the Clippers have had, they get off to this 6-21 start. At that time, I wrote about what are they going to do with their roster. I talked to people within the organization about is it fire sale time? Like it's really bad. And they had looked at some things and things were not good. But then, as you guys know, they completely flipped the script. So the stunning part of it late last night, and to your point, Dave, when you just think it's a run-of-the-mill game, at the Intuit Dome, is that, it felt like things were better. But James obviously has got a different view of the matter.
Feels like a lot of this is coming down to contract talks as well, right?
Yep.
James is up for some money, and he wants to be able to get paid. And I think the way it was all reported last night, it felt a little bit more imminent than it actually might be, the Garland and James Harden swap. Do you think that's the main leader here in terms of a James Harden trade, or are there other teams that are calling?
Yeah, well, the quick backdrop as to your first question is that, we've written about this a lot, is that the Clippers are just widely known to be laser focused on the summer of 2027 in terms of clearing their books. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, that's not that revelatory, but as we get closer to that time, I think the uncomfortable part is that my read of it is that that applies to everybody. Now they've got Zubac's on a $20 million deal for the 27-28 season. He's the only guy with guaranteed money, but for Kawhi Leonard, for James Harden, these guys who, are up in age. I mean, Kawhi less so than James, but who are playing good ball. You're getting to this point where you look out and it's like, okay, am I part of the Clippers' plans at all after next season? And the answer appears to be no, for anybody. Now I'm talking about it's a reset. It's let's see who's available in that summer of 27 and go from there. So when you have that level of, if you call it kind of disloyalty or kind of lack of commitment, you're going to have a guy like James, especially, who is, headed at, had departures before, read the room and figure out how do I feel about this. More imminently, his contract for next season got a player option. It's only guaranteed for $13.3 million of his $42 million. Puts a lot of power in the Clippers' hands. He's even got an interesting thing where his opt-in date is late June, but then the Clippers could turn around by July 11 and cut him loose. It's just bottom line. It's for, I think, a guy like James, it's not much love down the road, seemingly in terms of contract, and then also not much power in his hands. So he, with all that in mind, and who knows, as an aside, guys, I don't have clarity on this. I do wonder, from a human standpoint, how does he view just all of the drama with the Clippers this year? The investigation into Kawhi, the Chris Paul drama. It's been a crazy year, and now James is trying to head elsewhere. To your Cleveland question, I do think ultimately that could be the spot, but we're going to have to, wait and see what happens there. Let me kill Slack since that keeps making noise. They, the Cavs appear reluctant. I mean, listen, Darius is, say what you will about James, played at a really high level this year. He's been a better player than Darius this year, but it's what's James now?
36, I think.
Yeah, it's a decade. It's 36 to 26 between the two guys. And Cleveland wants the Clippers to attach a first if they're going to take James back. The funny part of that to me is that I do get it from an age and timeline standpoint. But it is funny, and like in the here and now, I had plugged this trade into the ESPN trade machine, which I like to call the John Hollinger trade machine.
Yeah.
and it spits out the analysis of wins going up or down, right? And it had the Clippers going down by 11 wins, swapping Harden for Garland. So you can see where the rub is between the two teams, and we'll see if anybody else gets involved. Last thought, I know I've given you a lot, but it's just a guy. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because if James is still trying to get anything remotely close to max money going forward, it's as we're seeing with John Moran, as we're seeing with Trae Young, guys like that, there's going to be a chilled market no matter how well he has played. So I think his messaging right now matters a lot. Like, what expectations he has going forward contract wise are going to play into this thing here.
We've already started to see Donovan Mitchell would love to have another ball handler to help share the load. Like it does, the messaging that's coming out feels like it's going to get done, right?
Yes. And
let me ask
stuff
you
behind the scenes real quick, Dave, that I don't think he'd mind me sharing this. Our buddy Law Murray, who obviously covers the Clippers and other things for The Athletic, he made a point when we chatted last night that like James has an amazing knack when times are not good in his current situation.
Oh yeah.
He finds that blood in the water.
Yeah. Like, it's like you don't apply leverage to your current place until you have something somewhere else. So to your point, it does feel like there's some grease having been put on that situation in Cleveland a little bit.
Well, especially because Cleveland has I think they have so much pressure to win this year. They need at least a conference finals, if not a finals, in my opinion. I mean, we've been talking about maybe they should blow this thing up because it's been such a disappointment. This seems, I don't know if it's the right move or not, but it certainly is a move. I'm glad you brought up the Kawhi stuff and the drama there. What are the chances? And I know you don't know because none of us know. This has all been under wraps. What are the chances like James Harden got wind of something coming with Kawhi, the Clippers, and the aspiration investigation, and was just like, okay, I've dealt with the drama to this point. It's looking bad. Let me get myself out of town.
Let me get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to find out. That one, love you, Dave, but that's one of those where it's like, once we get anything there, that'll be on the website. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Right. I mean, it'll be after All-Star before we know anything, but.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think, at minimum, you can share that like people around the league are wondering about that question. Even related to Joe Vard and I had broken the news that Lawrence Frank, the head of the Clippers front office, got an extension recently. And we didn't write the number, but the numbers you hear are pretty significant. So that's another one where it's like, is that a deal for the future? Is that thanks for the time in case you're in trouble type thing?
Right.
That's the backdrop and the mystery going forward here.
I want to just go back to Cleveland real quick because it feels like trading Garland, or even the idea of trading Garland, now opens up the door for them to do other things. You had reported on The Athletic that, potentially a Jared Allen equation is here as well in terms of what they might do moving forward. There's always the LeBron James of it all when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers and a potential reunion. How does all of this now, because the Cavs have already made a move, right? They've traded DeAndre Hunter for Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. They feel like they're being aggressive at this deadline. What else do you see the Cavs kind of doing at this deadline?
Yeah, I think they are. And they're just in this, like, nobody is in the type of hole that they are in terms of being limited, right? Because they're the only second apron team in the league. My understanding is that the DeAndre Hunter deal, the 3-team trade with the Kings and the Bulls, essentially like the amount that they need to cut to get out of the apron and to be able to do some of this stuff, that cut off about a third of it, and they still have a ways to go. And I've not crunched all the numbers, but if you find a new home for Jared Allen and get that salary off your books, which that is something that would be appealing to a lot of teams out there, then it opens up these possibilities. Yes, first and foremost, the idea of them jumping into the Giannis sweepstakes, which, is very unlikely given everything we're kind of laying out. But Giannis is one of those players that if you have any chance to go after him, you do. If it's not Giannis, I didn't write this part last night, but like they've shown interest in Domantas Sabonis in the past. I think doing something like that is on their board, but it's just really tough to get there. It is funny though. You mentioned the LeBron of it all. Like you have this energy right now where like, look at a guy like James Harden, you do kind of wonder, okay, if he can land this plane and get to Cleveland, how does that potentially impact how a guy like LeBron sees the homecoming? I've had people talk about the Warriors Giannis scenario where it's like if the Warriors got Giannis and you got Steph and Giannis together, then the energy probably shifts for a guy like LeBron towards the Warriors, and I don't know exactly how the Warriors see that, but it's kind of like old heads unite type deal, finding a final chapter.
Kind of like the Olympics, right?
Yeah. I mean, James wasn't there, but the Steph and LeBron thing. And so we'll see. But we know that players on the one hand, even the top superstars, they have only so much control and power, but they're going to exert every bit that they have. And Dave, again, you hit it on it a minute ago. Like we try our best to tell all the stories of what's happening behind the scenes, but I would love to know more about like who's James on the phone with, who's Bron on the phone with, who's Donovan talking to. Quick aside, you got the sneaker game is always part of this whole ecosystem. You got the Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Adidas connection that is worth highlighting. Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Yeah. Well, at least James hadn't come out and said like Lawrence Frank is a liar or anything like that. This hasn't been as
we ain't done yet, brother.
The timing is so perfect on this because we didn't hear anything until DeAndre Hunter gets traded away from the Cavs and the Cavs open up. Would they say $50 million on the Keon Ellis trade? They get the best player in the trade and save a bunch of money. So we didn't hear anything. You mentioned Giannis. That's the biggest name available. What would you put the odds at right now? And I know you don't know for sure, but just couch it however you like. What are the odds he goes this week versus the summer?
I mean, most people, almost everybody I've talked to around the league thinks it's past the deadline and it's into the summer. But the major qualifier there is that all of those people, like myself, are flying blind when it comes to exactly like we need to know what Bucks ownership is telling John Horst, the Bucks GM, in terms of doing it now versus later, because that's the stuff that they're keeping close to the vest for obvious reasons. So my disclaimer is, at the end of this thing on Thursday, if something goes down with him, then I could see us on the backside learning that they decided like they're just done with this drama, and that happens. Like in my backyard, based near Sacramento, it made very little sense for the Kings to move De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio when they did, and the package that they got has aged really poorly. But the exhaustion factor came into play for them with Fox and him wanting out, and the negativity and the teammates having to deal with it. So that's what I'm watching. That's the only reason to me that they go ahead and grab one of these earlier offers that does not really fit the bill for a player of Giannis's repute. But I could still see it happening.
Who's the team? What's the team that you think jumps out to you if it gets done before the deadline?
Well, I mean, a lot of chatter about Minnesota yesterday being aggressive. Brian Windhorst at ESPN had reported that they were looking for a third or fourth team to basically find additional draft capital and sweeten their offer. It is believed that, there's no way this is a conversation without Jaden McDaniels being in the deal. You could argue probably the best player of any of the teams in terms of, the Minnesota, Miami, the Knicks, and the Warriors, that's on the table. Maybe some of the Knicks guys, but the Warriors, it's interesting how like they came out the gate real strong going after Giannis, and it feels very much like the Bucks essentially took their offer and have been shopping that to everybody else, because they've been, as of late yesterday, and I know this, and this is the time of year, it is what it is, it runs counter to some of the other reporting out there, but like late yesterday, Warriors had no counter offer from the Bucks, and we're just waiting for clarity. That was also the case for Minnesota. So that's, people are studying the way the Bucks are moving. They're not really going back and forth. Mm-hmm. They're kind of, again, shopping and making people wonder, is this a legitimate let's get a deal done period, or is this a fact-finding recon mission that gives you the intel you need going into next summer to know what's out there?
Wouldn't they have some of this just left over from this previous summer? My assumption is like the deals haven't gotten a lot better necessarily, unless they were only talking to the Knicks. Is that how this was at the end of the summer?
Yeah, it was. I believe it was just the Knicks, and it was the timing was so weird. Because this has been written about and discussed, but the Knicks were almost annoyed. Like, why are you coming to us in August or September? I forget exactly, but they had given Mikal Bridges the extension that basically, made a deal impossible at that time because he wasn't eligible to be moved for another 6 months. It was kind of like, if like message to Giannis, if you were in love with us, you should have come in, May or June. So by that point, it wasn't much of a discussion. They're still paying a little bit of a price. I wrote last week about how the Knicks, once guys' names get in the media, with Karl Anthony Towns knowing that this was something that was in play. So to your point, Dave, I don't know that they really gathered much intel beyond the Knicks last summer, because they were consistently, taking that stance of, we're not engaging, we're not taking Giannis calls, and they were trying to add to their roster to keep him on board.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to talk about the rest of the league. And because S is here, we got to ask, what dumb move are the Raptors going to make? All right, we're back. That was a quick break if you're on the live stream. And all right, Sam, I keep hearing Domantas Sabonis to the Raptors as a possibility. We've done this for years together.
It is your neck of the woods, Sam.
Sam, you know how I feel about Domantas Sabonis on a basketball team. He's a very good high floor player, but your ceiling has a limit. And so he's been dealing with this, struggling with this.
I'm itching. Yeah.
The possibility. Are they going to send RJ Barrett to the Kings for Domantas Sabonis?
First of all, when I mentioned the possibility earlier, I could tell how S felt about it. S's face, it looked like that clip of Caitlin Clark when Reggie Miller,
when he said Peyton
Pritchard, like his smile.
It's funny. S is our Peyton Pritchard too.
There you go. Hey, I'm a gunner. What can I say?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Tell us what's the deal, man, because it feels like there's a lot of smoke around this from all of the reporting that we've heard.
Again, I enjoy, and we talk about like the weird jobs that we have, like the choice to write about that. It comes again, I wrote about it 10 days ago. It comes in spite of the fact that, for the record, like people with Sabonis are claiming this is dead. It's not happening. Mm-hmm. Other people are claiming that's not the case. Regardless, let's just go ahead and say it doesn't happen before the deadline. It was absolutely asserted to me that if it's another one of those things where if not now, maybe later, that it could happen in the summer. Now, I don't have the Raptors big board to know, okay, Giannis up top, obviously.
Yeah.
Is Domas 2? Is he 3? Is he 4? Is he 5? AD has been tied to the Raptors at times. So that's part of the equation. But the RJ Barrett thing, he was drafted by Scott Perry, the Kings GM, with the Knicks, obviously. When Toronto came through town recently, I actually was talking to Scott in person, and then he jumped off to say hello to RJ as he walked by. And those guys, it was like a father and son moment. I mean, it's nothing but love and hugging it out and everything. And hindsight felt a little bit like, all right, I'm trying to come get you. So like
Right.
RJ is the Kings' interest for sure. The obstacle, like I wrote, is Jakob Poeltl. Like it's 100% absolute no-go for the Kings. They're not taking him on. He's got a lot of money left. I think 103 million. And so, yeah, if you see him go somewhere else before the deadline, which is unlikely, and actually, to be honest, I forgot to write this part. His back issues has had him off the floor lately, and just an interesting thing to watch. It was put to me that if he doesn't play on Wednesday night, and I forget who they have, it doesn't really matter. Like if Poeltl doesn't play on Wednesday night, then you can say goodbye to the Sabonis possibility, because teams who are maybe looking at Poeltl, they want to see him play, and if he's still on the shelf, then they're going to just take a pass.
Well, I can tell you right now, he will not be playing on Wednesday. It's been a tough situation for him for the last 20 or so games. He's just been dealing with that back injury. And I'm curious if that ends up being a case of him being shut down for the year, just even if they don't end up moving him in a deal. What's going on with the Kings? Because obviously they've made a trade already, and they have this lot of players in a Malik Monk and a Zach LaVine. Obviously, we just talked about Domantas Sabonis. What are they trying to build or build towards with some of these moves that they're trying to get done before the deadline?
I mean, it's a combination of figuring out what this roster looks like going forward, and obviously, shedding a lot of the leftover baggage from before. I mean, I mentioned the Fox trade, and it just, again, it's aged so poorly. Like Zach LaVine, we had seen this movie before with DeMar DeRozan. So the idea that they did that again, and that was a previous front office regime that did that with Monty McNair leading the way, and to be clear, Vivek Ranadive, the Kings owner, having everything to do with that decision. He had an affinity for Zach. So I guess I'll unpack it that way. As Zach is, and I wrote this today, he's going to pick up his player option for this summer. It's like a no-duh moment, but we got to at least make sure that that's what his people are saying, and they are. So, it's getting off of money like Zach, DeMar. The Sabonis thing, they like Sabonis, but they're trying to pivot here. So all that being said, it has not been a great couple days when it comes to their roster building. That 3-team trade for Hunter, like, it did advance their agenda, but the fact that it included a guy, Dennis Schroeder, who they picked up last summer, and then quickly wanted to get off his money because it didn't work out. That one didn't age well. I mean, it's easier said than done there, but to me, if you look at what they had last summer, and this teams run into this a lot. Like, we talked about the human factor, and stick with me, I'll land the plane here. But like, you look at that roster and you already kind of know back then that you don't truly believe in almost any of these players. Like, you're going to invest in Keegan Murray, Nick Clifford, you drafted, so the young guys, sure. But the LaVine, DeMar, Sabonis, Malik Monk, like, you're off of them. So the idea of, spending $45 million, a little bit less than that on guarantees, but to go get a Dennis Schroeder and make your mountain even bigger, just obviously was a mistake. And especially when he knew that Russell Westbrook was a possibility on the back end of that. Russ came in, did what Russ does, won the job, pissed Dennis off in the process. He goes to the bench. Then you have a lost situation that leads to you moving one of your best assets in Keon Ellis in a deal like the one they did, as opposed to, just a cleaner 1-for-1 where you get an asset. So hopefully that all makes sense. But the timeline, until further notice, is it's out quite a ways. I mean, they are, I think, currently, got the worst record in the league. It's a wonderful draft. They're hoping they get lucky there. So that's going to be a nice piece going forward. And then,
boy, do they need that to hit. Boy, do they need that to hit.
Yeah.
Well, and then they need to draft well, right? Right now, it's the island of misfit toys out there. Okay, is Anthony Davis going to get traded? I'm just going to rapid fire some stuff.
No, you're good. And not to do that thing, I got about 5 minutes, then I got to jump.
That's all right. We only got about 5 left. Is Anthony Davis going to get moved?
No, we're good. So probably not. I mean, everything is, we got to couch things this time of year.
Of course.
I don't think so. But there was some chatter the other day about like the irons in the fire are not completely cold, whether it's, Atlanta, S's favorite place, Toronto, to a lesser degree, Chicago. I don't think that's happening, but likely staying put.
Anybody else? Is there, obviously conversations about potentially Pelicans doing stuff with either Trey Murphy or Herb Jones? Anything you've heard on that front?
Those continue to be like the Godfather offers might get you a conversation, but probably still not going anywhere, which I find interesting. But, Joe Dumars has done interesting things before. And we'll see. I mean, they like those guys, but man, their market is really high. So if I was in their shoes, I'd be thinking about it. Wrote about Miles Bridges in Charlotte and how he's got a market, but suddenly they're playing a whole lot better. And it seems like he's likely not going anywhere. The Ja Morant situation we'll keep monitoring it. It's an interesting one because the market is very cold and there's teams, like again, the one in my backyard that are not completely closing the door on that possibility and kind of having the stance of like, how low can this price go type deal, like in that type of an instance. And this is a little analogous to the Harden situation where it's like, if you want us to take that guy, like you got to give us draft capital. It's beyond a dump. It's, it's teams trying to get something. So Ja comes to mind, adjacent to that. There's always, I don't think it'll happen at the deadline, but there's always people wondering about Jaren Jackson Jr. and, when he might be on the move. So, there's going to be, I think some stuff's going to pop. But those are the first names that come to mind.
Finally, before we leave, it's in my contract. I have to ask about Laker trades on any sort of show about trades. Are they going to make any deals or should we just expect that this is the team going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned our Lakers beat writer Dan Wojcicki earlier. He reported that they look very quiet and that it's likely standing pat. I don't know if they'll do something small, like they were attached to the Hunter situation a little bit, and then pushed back on that. They were attached to the Keon Ellis situation. That didn't happen. So you see them looking for shooting for 3-and-D, but you also know that for them, and we've seen this movie before, it's once they get to the summertime, they can access, I think, 3 first-rounders. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, you don't want to part ways with any of that stuff right now if you're going to go for a big swing in the summer. So, I think it'll be fairly quiet for the Lakers.
Yeah. Well, the trade deadline only a couple of days away. Don't forget, we're going to be streaming all day long over on our YouTube channel. I think we got like 40 guests. Sam, are you on the list? You're going to be there, right?
I don't know. You got to let me know.
Okay. Well, that was an oversight on our part if you're not, because we definitely like to make you work extra.
I'm here for
so
you.
Guys,
you need.
Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Set up the little, click that bell so you get an alert. Give us a 5-star review if you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. I don't know. It's all spread out all over the place. Thanks to Sam Amick for making time with us as always. Thank you to Es Baraheni. I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily's Trade Deadline Primer.